All right, our final segment with Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams here at News Channel 5. Good to have him on Morning Line. I want to show one more piece and then maybe get to a few more calls before you wrap things up. This is on the financial audit. We talked about money being at the heart of a lot of this.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, there were 2 or 3 board members who had requested an audit, really wanting to look at how the spending had been happening at Metro Schools, questions about spending. And there was a presentation and there was an audit report that was released in the last couple of weeks. And the audit report really didn't say much. But after there was a presentation at the board meeting last week, I think last week,
Yeah.
my weeks are running
I think
together.
You're right.
Then the school system put out a news release saying the audit had showed once and for all that everything was on the up and up and there were no spending problems. And before they say something like that they really ought to check the facts, because if they don't check the facts, we will.
Here, let's see how Phil checked the facts.
I'm here to discuss the audit of the Metro Nashville Public Schools financial matters.
Auditor Mary Cole came before the Metro School Board Tuesday night, making it clear that the recently released audit was extremely limited in what it investigated.
The objective was to describe and determine central office payroll cost, the number of employees hired in the central office, and vehicles.
That was it, but our investigation had revealed how under Schools Director Dr. Sean Joseph, unauthorized purchases where the district did not follow its own purchasing rules skyrocketed from $300,000 the year before he was hired to $2.3 million the next year. By mid-year 2018, it was already more than $1 million.
Take a minute now with the instructor.
And our investigation raised questions about how companies like Research for Better Teaching got lucrative consulting deals without signing contracts that required board approval.
There are 3 different audits or reviews that we are doing at this time.
Audit Supervisor Bill Walker noted that city auditors are still investigating the district's purchases as well as other human resources issues that have come up in their investigation.
Because some of them don't have contracts that are listed only as purchase orders.
But even when there were hints of those issues in the initial audit,
there were a lot of questions that I had.
The schools director insisted that instead of getting into it in a public meeting, he would prefer to respond later.
If we've captured the questions, we can just respond in writing to many of them, because there were multiple questions.
I'm very disappointed that we're not willing to have a public discussion about the audit. This has obviously been a huge issue, and the entire city's talking about it. And now that we have an opportunity, we're saying, well, hey, just send something in writing, and we may or may not put it out publicly.
And that really.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
That really is an issue that we've seen with the school board. They really would prefer to discuss these touchy issues, out of the public's eye. And and that's been a source of frustration, because you go to these board meetings and frequently there's little concrete discussions of these very real issues. I mean, for example, the school system obviously right now has a sexual harassment scandal. I mean, they're already up to 4 lawsuits that could end up costing the district a lot of money. And there's been no public discussion of, what are our policies? How do we want these to be handled? And so, I think, for some board members, that's really a point of frustration. And number 2, that, I don't think that this administration has come out and admitted to any mistakes. Any administration is going to have mistakes. The thing that, is most helpful is when you're able to admit that, yes, we mishandled this, we should have handled it better, here's how we're going to handle it better in the future.
It's mind-boggling to me, and I don't know who's giving advice on how to handle being what should be obvious. Be transparent, be open, do exactly what you said if they're missing. Now maybe there's something criminal going on behind the things that people want to hide. I have no evidence of that, but why the heck would you not want to be transparent with public money, with a school board, with our children's education at stake? I simply don't get it. It's hard for me to comprehend. And if you're a parent, how can you not comprehend that?
And if you've made a mistake, just acknowledge it and fix it.
Okay, but don't anyone tell me that you haven't made any mistakes, because that's a lie. Everyone makes mistakes, but acknowledge it and then correct it. Now, what those mistakes are, I guess you've pointed them out, but I don't understand that. So with the transparency and what about you were showing in that package there, the money's being spent that didn't have the proper contracts? Was that what that was?
Yeah, I mean,
how can that be done? 80 grand and it's not gone through the proper channels? I mean,
and in the case of Research for Better Teaching, I think I'm close. I think they've spent about $150,000 with that company. It was a company that Dr. Joseph had previously worked with. The board rules used to say any contract over $25,000 needed board approval. When Dr. Joseph came in, the board changed it to $100,000. But they've spent well over $100,000. They don't have a formal contract. And that $150,000 was not approved by the board.
But the rules are that it's supposed to be. Okay, so what I don't understand is, okay, there's a mistake. If I do something here at work and I blatantly disregard something my news director told me, I'm in big trouble. All right, I don't understand why are none of these school board members holding this person accountable then? I mean, just say, hey, you didn't get approval for this. I mean, that's not happening now, or whatever. Okay, someone going to slap her hand? Or what's going on here?
It goes back to board politics. Not only has the administration been reluctant to admit mistakes were made, the board has been unwilling to publicly acknowledge that mistakes were made.
Meanwhile, public tax dollars are being spent, around the way of what the policy is supposed to be.
Exactly.
I simply don't understand it. All right, real quick, let's see if we can squeeze in Tony. Tony, good morning. Go ahead.
Yes, Nick, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to know why Mr. Williams, he didn't investigate the police department like he had at the school, because they're corrupt. Because how am I going to file a complaint against a police officer, the same police officer, that's now got promoted to Office of Professional Accountability, where I have to go make the complaint? You think I'm going to get into traction like that? That's ridiculous.
All right, well, separate issue. You can only investigate so much, but...
Yeah, and we have done plenty of investigations involving the police department in the past. Again, there's only so much of me to go around.
Right, I've got you. All right, let's talk about, as you said, this layers to this story with schools and director. What's next? I guess we know late last week that story broke about the additional lawsuit.
Yeah, and this lawsuit really has the potential to be significant, because there are a number of factors why this lawsuit will be significant and could end up costing taxpayers a lot of money. So tonight we're going to take a look more at that lawsuit and the implications not only for Dr. Joseph and his team, but the implications for taxpayers, the implications for this new school board that's coming in. So I think this may be the lawsuit that changes the dynamic completely.
I'm just curious, do you know, Phil, when it comes to a lawsuit like this, and if a judgment comes back for, say, $1 million to someone, how does a municipality like ours pay for that? Is it out of our general budget, or is there an insurance that we pay for that helps cover the cost of lawsuits, to your knowledge? I don't know if...
That's an excellent question, and I will look up the answer or find the answer and answer tonight.
Okay, good. I think that's interesting, but I mean, as you said, it's going to cost taxpayers money, and I'm sure you will, but I just wonder, where does that money come from? And as far as the new school board taking, the means of... Does he come up for a review, or does he get a new contract picked up, or how does it go about whether or not the director is confirmed to continue as a director, or if they want to get rid of him?
And he could be terminated for cause. So who knows? I mean, it's really going to be interesting to watch this new board. Yeah. I mean, not only have we reported on the sexual harassment cases, we reported last week about that Dr. Joseph could face a public reprimand from the Tennessee State Board of Education for failing to report cases where teachers were suspended for misconduct. And there are numerous examples of that. So there are a lot of issues on the plate right now.
Bill, appreciate you coming on. And again, make sure you tune in tonight. As you said, he'll get the answers for that. Likely, the lead story at 6 o'clock tonight, looking more at that lawsuit and some of these other questions, and then more stories to come, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
News Channel 5 Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams. Always a pleasure having you on, and next time I promise you I'll have you coffee.
Okay. They are the witnesses.
The witnesses to it. It's on tape. Thanks, Phil. I'll be right back with a programming note right after this.
If you spend any